Aliens laughed at our rules of war until they saw why we made them. Ambassador Krell's translator crackled with what could only be laughter as he reviewed the human document. His crystalline body refracted the council chamber lights in contempt. You chain yourselves, the Varn delegate's voice echoed across the Galactic Assembly. Rules against biological weapons, chemical agents, explosive projectiles, and you expect your enemies to honor this. Colonel William Raven stood at the podium, jaw tight. Behind him, General Harrison Chen remained stone-faced. 50 other species watched with varying degrees of amusement. The Geneva Conventions represent weakness, Krell interrupted. In 300 cycles, my people have conquered 47 systems. We use every tool available, every weapon, every method. His form pulsed with pride. This is why we dominate, and you negotiate. Raven's hands gripped the podium. These rules exist because humans are soft, another delegate chittered. Sentimental. The chamber erupted in agreement. Chen leaned forward, whispered something. Raven nodded slowly. Motion to dismiss human petition for protected species status, Krell announced. All in favor? A unanimous chorus. Then it's settled. Krell's translator carried satisfaction. Humanity will face us without restrictions, without rules. We'll show you what real war looks like. Raven gathered his papers, his voice quiet enough that the translators barely caught it. You're absolutely right, Ambassador. We made those rules because we're soft. Chen stood, his weathered face unreadable. We hope you'll remember you said that. 14 months later, Varn Command Station. Ambassador Krell's primary crystalline structure had developed cracks. Stress fractures, the medics said. He watched the tactical display in growing horror. 47 conquered systems, all of them burning. Report, he commanded, his voice lacking its former confidence. The intelligence officer, a Varn named Shrill, trembled. The humans. They're not following any pattern we understand. No predictable supply lines. No central command we can target. They're everywhere and nowhere. Their fleet. Destroyed 6 months ago at Rigel. Confirmed. Shrill's next words came slowly. But the attacks haven't stopped. They've gotten worse. On the display, another Varn colony went dark. Then another. How? Krell demanded. What weapons are they using? All of them, Shrill whispered. The chemical agents we used on Earth? They synthesized worse. The biological weapons. They modified them to target our specific crystalline biology. The nanite swarms. His voice broke. They improved them. A transmission interrupted them. A human face appeared. Not Raven or Chen, but someone younger. Harder. His uniform bore no rank insignia, no unit designation. Ambassador Krell. I'm Lieutenant David Park. You probably don't remember me. I was at the Geneva Assembly. Took notes. Krell said nothing. 47 systems, Park continued conversationally. That's how many you took. Did you know that in human history, we developed rules of war because we got too good at it? Not because we were weak, because we were terrified of ourselves. Another colony blinked out on the display. Those conventions, they were chains we put on ourselves, because once, a long time ago, we learned what happens when humans fight without rules. Park's expression never changed. We promised ourselves, never again. We'd be civilized, restrained. What do you want? Krell managed. Nothing. This isn't a negotiation. Park glanced at something off-screen. You wanted to see what real war looks like. You voted unanimously to free us from our own restrictions, so we're showing you what we created those restrictions to prevent. The transmission cut out, replaced by tactical data, Varn fleet movements, defense positions, personal communications, everything, their entire network, compromised, and beneath it, a countdown timer, 3 hours. Get me the Galactic Council, Krell said. Now. Earth, War Command. General Chen stood in the dimmed command center, watching the same display Krell saw light years away. Beside him, Colonel Raven and 24 other officers waited in silence. They're calling, sir, a communications officer reported. Emergency council session. They're offering surrender terms. Terms, Raven repeated flatly. Full reparations. Territory concessions. War crime tribunals for their leadership. A pause. They're begging us to stop. Chen studied the countdown clock. 3 hours until the Van core worlds would be in range of the weapons platforms they'd secretly constructed over the past year. Platforms loaded with enough genetically targeted bioweapons to render every Van world uninhabitable for crystalline-based life. Forever. General, Raven asked quietly, what are your orders? Chen's finger hovered over the command override. One press would halt the countdown. One press would restart the restraints humanity had voluntarily worn for centuries. One press would make them civilized again. Sir, there's something else, the communications officer said, his voice strained. Intelligence reports that 17 other species are mobilizing, not against us. They're moving to occupy Van territory he couldn't finish. Before we exterminate them, Raven finished. They're scavengers, waiting for us to finish the job so they can pick over what's left. Chen looked at the young officers around the room. Good men. Soldiers who'd followed orders, unleashed hell, and done it all without hesitation because their homeworld had been burning. If we stop now, someone said, we prove the rules still matter. If we don't, another voice added, we prove why we needed them in the first place. Chen's hand remained frozen over the override. The countdown ticked to 2 hours, 59 minutes, and the lights of 16 approaching fleets appeared on the display, surrounding the Van core worlds like vultures circling prey. General, Raven said urgently, those fleets, they're not waiting for us to stand down. They're moving in regardless. If we stop the countdown, the Van still die, just slower, at their hands instead of ours. Chen closed his eyes. His finger descended toward the button. The room held its collective breath. And then, Sir, the communications officer's shout froze everyone. New contact, massive energy signature jumping in system, right between us and the Van core worlds. Designation unknown, configuration unknown. Power readings are... He looked up, face pale. It's reading higher than our entire fleet combined. On the display, something vast and ancient materialized from faster-than-light transit. Not human, not Van, not anything in the Galactic Council's database, and it was broadcasting on all frequencies. A single word, in a language that should have been dead for 1,000,000 years. A word that every human somehow understood in their bones. Stop. Chen's finger remained hovering above the override as the countdown reached 2 hours, 58 minutes. And somewhere, in the darkness between stars, something that had been watching humanity for a very long time decided it was finally time to intervene.